Good evening, everybody. Happy Burns Evening 2022. Dean Jode, Head of Whisky Creations for Murray McDavid. This is our first ever live broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. So I promise I'll try my best not to swear after a few drams. We might get a little bit edgy. I'll try my best, I promise. But thank you very much for joining us for our Burns evening tasting. Now, Burns night, what is it? Well, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Now, I've seen a few fantastic tastings over the weekend with some really lovely readings. It's very theatrical readings, which are very enjoyable. But actually, what I love about the common ground that a lot of these tastings have or had was the sheer enjoyment of coming together to share a dram, to also raise it to the ploughman poet that was Robbie Burns. And we have three of those whiskies, three examples of whiskies this evening from our current Murray McDavid release, which we'll raise them individually to the Great Bard. And along with them, I'll be telling you how we've put them together. We have three different styles of whiskies. We have a single malt, we have a single grain, and we have a blended malt. And a lot of different flavors coming within those whiskies, a lot of different cask finishes, which of course is the speciality of what we do at Murray McDavid. The art of maturation is at the heart of every category of Murray McDavid, whether it's our Mission Gold series, our benchmark, our mystery malt, our select grain, the vatting, or the crafted blend. All of those whiskies that you'll see on the shelves at your nearest respectable retailer will have gone through some kind of art of maturation, and we would have conducted that at our whiskey warehouses at the old Colburn distillery just south of Elgin. So yeah, coming together, enjoying a dram. Now, again, I'm beaming to you through the World Wide Web, which has been fantastic, certainly over the past year and a half, as you know, we've hosted tastings with many whiskey clubs around the world. Australia was an interesting one. I was sipping my first drams at I think it was about 10:15 in the morning British time. We've of course had tastings with our friends over in America and many across the UK. But this year, I'm really hopeful that we can get back out there. We've already got a few tastings booked in-person tastings. So please check out our Facebook, our website for more information. And well, I'm broadcasting to you this evening from Speyside. And well, today I've been at Colburn selecting casks for our imminent releases in April, and also our Spirit of Speyside Festival bottling, which I know many of you will be really excited about, because I know a few of you have had enjoyed a few of those in the past. So yeah, we've got special things to come for the Spirit of Speyside. A lot of new exciting announcements, not just whiskey wise, but whiskey destination wise. Let's leave it at that. I'm quite famed for spilling the beans of what should be closely guarded secrets. So before I get myself into trouble, I'm going to stop it there, and we're going to go straight into dram 1, which is a nice segue actually, as we were talking about the Spirit of Speyside Festival. As I'm currently in Speyside also, it's only fitting that we start off this evening's whiskey appreciation by examining our Speysiders. 11-year-old space ciders in our vatting series in the orange, which the vatting series always contains blended malt whiskies. And this is a blend of 4 single malts. And the single malts that I've selected to blend together purely through the inspiration of driving from site to site that Murray McDavid create their whiskies from. So where I'm currently streaming from actually is in Forres, and as I'm driving to the warehouses at Colburn, I will see the signposts and distilleries for Milton Duff. We'll see Linkwood, and further driving down to our Parkmore distillery manager's house, we'll see Craigellachie as well, Glenlossie on route also. So those are the 4 malts going in to the blends, all 11 years of age, blended together in 2019. And these would have actually been filled back into refill bourbon hogsheads. And for the last 6 months of its life, this whiskey, after being married together for just over a year, those malts are really starting to integrate together. And the ratios, I'm sure you're curious to know, of course, plays a vitally important part when creating a blend. And also, of course, the time that you allow to integrate the blend plays an important role. But let me dive in a little deeper about the malts going into the blend here. So 40% of the space ciders is single malt from Craigellachie distillery. Rich, fruity, heavy style single malt, of course famed for their worm tubs. And they've got the most beautiful Highland cows just opposite the distillery, which I'll forgive you for not noticing those beautiful Highland cows, because of course as you drive past the distillery, you'll see the wonderful stills shining out of the still house there. The spirit style, rich, heavy, fruity, really, really lovely backbone to a blend. And it's actually a single malt that is in relatively short supply to the whiskey brokers in comparison to many others. So it's quite unusual to have this single malt as the backbone of the blend. Now, 25% of the space ciders here is Milton Duff. Now, I think Milton Duff is a very underrated single malt, because what I love about the profile of the spirit, it's creamy, it's rich. It also has a slight chocolatiness to that lovely, lovely rich malt that the spirit displays. And that creaminess really mellows down the fruit of that Craigellachie. And in equal parts, we have Linkwood and Glenlossie, 2 lighter style single malts to those heavyweights. And those just reiterate the lighter, fruitier style of the Craigellachie there. So trying to balance that robust style of malt with the lighter styles, bringing in sweetness, creates a nice, elegant, spicy, fruity style single malt. Sorry, blended malts, excuse me. Now, that's just the first part of the creation of the space ciders 11-year-old. Of course, in true Murray McDavid fashion, we finished the whiskey. So finishing, what's the goal here? What's the objective? Why do we do it? So I would say around 90% of whiskies, single malts or single grains that we buy from distilleries tend to come to us in refill wood. Now, refill casks generally are really quite exhausted in terms of what they can provide to a whiskey to develop the flavor the character and the color of a whiskey, certainly in a shorter period of time. Now, if you have the luxury of waiting for a single malt to develop these complexities over 20, 30, 40 years, then, you know, all the more for you, fantastic. But the reality is that, you know, we need to create whiskies at these younger ages, displaying richer, characterful flavors, aromas. And the way that you can really do that and perfect the whiskey in your glass is by using first fill casks, freshly emptied casks. Now, the Speysiders here has spent the last 6 months of its life finishing, developing richer flavor, developing color from casks. Our cask collaborators, I should say, who are based in Jerez, producers by the name of Jimenez Spinola. Now, Jimenez Spinola are a family of PX sherry producers. PX being Pedro Jimenez sherry, very, very different from Oloroso sherry. PX sherry, Pedro Jimenez sherry. Well, if you've not had a glass of it before, I urge you to go down to the supermarket tomorrow, buy yourself PX sherry, Pedro Jimenez sherry, also vanilla ice cream. I'll come to that in a minute. Of course, in a capita or a tumbler, whatever your glass of choice, pour some PX into that vessel and just swirl it around in your glass. You'll see that the PX, the viscosity of that is incredibly rich. On the aroma, you're just going to get crushed raisins and slight nuttiness, and you know, the further you go into the world of PX, the more complexities that you can find from older styles and more premium styles. But it's a wonderful, wonderful flavor that accompanies a whiskey. And our partners, Jimenez Spinola, as I say, have been cultivating this style of sherry since 1729, which is actually, well, before Robbie Burns was born. I think about 30 years before he was born. So, you know, an amazingly authentic producer of sherry that's actually bottled for people to drink, rather than sherry that's created to season casks and is often discarded. So we take great pride in the collaboration and the partnership that we formed with Jimenez Spinola, and it's a really great way to showcase their casks with the Speysider blend here, because we're getting those, well, I've been rabbiting on, I do apologize. I know we have some thirsty participants, some thirsty whiskey lovers out there. So I'm going to invite you to follow along and join me to raise a glass to the great bard. And well, thank you for coming along virtually this evening. Next year we will be doing this slightly differently, I hope. And here's to whiskey, here's to friends, and here's to seeing each other very soon. So on the palate immediately, you can tell as I'm almost chewing the whiskey, it's very, very rich. You might be able to see, or you can see on your own glasses at home, the viscosity that I was talking about, referring to from the Pedro Jimenez sherry. So imagine as those sherry casks are emptied over in Spain, there's still maybe 10, 15 liters of sherry in the actual wood. It's called in-drink. And as the blends or single malt or spirit that we fill into that cask, the spirit is also being absorbed into the oak. And it's almost a kind of a breathing of the cask, which is allowing that PX sherry to to integrate with the, in this case, Speysider's blended malt. And after time, of course, that color will start to affect the appearance of the whiskey, but importantly, the flavor as well. And leaving the whiskey in cask, you're going to get more integration of flavors from that finishing cask to the spirit here. And with 6 months, I think that's a nice finishing time for PX and this style of Speysiders, because there are lighter fruits within the malt components that if we were to leave this style of blend in that finishing cask for a year, 2 years, then actually we're going to start losing the delicacies of the liquids, of the Glenlossies. It will be a very different blend indeed. So we've got light spice, we've still got the rich fruit, the hearty malty fruits at the core, but there is also that really lovely, almost creamy mocha note to the aroma, but also that key. I find the key to the, or a familiar component to the Jimenez Spinola cask is a slight nuttiness. And that really is predominant from the Jimenez Spinola bottlings that we've done over the past 2 years. A wonderful, easy, quaffable sipper to wet the whistle for my first whiskey of the evening, and I trust yours too, possibly. Wonderful. So as I say, that falls within our vatting series, and we already have some Speysiders in cask for a release coming in March, April time. However, this is a slightly different malt component, or a malts, a combination of different malts we have for the next batch, and it'll be interesting to see what you think. This is actually our third iteration, our third batch of the Speysiders. And this is what we like to do with our blended series, is certainly with the Speysiders, we've always used that malt content, differing degrees of finishing, different sherry style finishes on the of the Speysiders. So now we're looking at, for the future batches, slightly different malt contents to the Speysiders. But again, I'm saying too much already. If you want to know more, come and see us at the Spirit of Speyside Whiskey Festival 2022, which happens 27th of April, the day after my birthday. So I will be accepting drams. If you see me the day before, drams in moderation, because I will be hosting a wide range of events, ranging from blending workshops. There'll be some specialist maturation tours at Colburn, and I'm hoping that we will be able to do some events at Parkmore Distillery Manager's House this year on the grounds of the house, and some other things which, again, I'm probably not allowed to say at this point, but next week or the week after, we'll be formally announcing our activity for the Spirit of Speyside. It's going to be wonderful, and I'm going to start telling you about our festival bottling as well, or bottlings. Who knows? There might be more than one. Anyway, again, saying too much, but I'm just excited. This is also what I love about Burns Night, is that for me, who, well, from my accent, I'm sure you can tell that I haven't been celebrating Burns Night since the dawn of time. Since, well, it's actually only been maybe, well, I've been now with Murray McDavid for 7 years, believe it or not. Burns Night tends to mark the anniversary of me joining Murray McDavid. So I always love this time of year, because it gives you that reflection, and as I said previously, it's the coming together, which I'm really looking forward to, coming together of friends so that we can enjoy many whiskies of Murray McDavid to come over the festivals. And this is really the first tasting of the year that we tend to do. So there's a lot of excitement that's built up over the Christmas period, and it's so many exciting things to happen this year. Anyways, we are going to move on to dram number 2, and again, this is well, we started off with quite a traditional representation, I would say, of what we do at Murray McDavid. A Speyside blended malt that's been finished in PX sherry, classic flavors that are running through there. Now, of course, as you can see from our Murray McDavid packaging, we're not the most traditional of whiskey producers in Scotland, and nor do we want to be, because it's an exciting way to make whiskey with the view to do it differently, and not be scared to challenge the status quo of how you see others producing bottling whiskey. So it's been really great to see people's receptions of our select grain series in the blue. Now, some of you will be aware that the Mission Gold and the Benchmark series have been with Murray McDavid since its inception in 1994, under slightly different names and slightly different looks. But in 2015, it was the revival of Murray McDavid under the umbrella of ACO Limited. The Murray McDavid casks were moved from Bruichladdich Distillery under the ownership at the time of Mark Rainier, Gordon Wright, and Simon Coughlin, who were the founders of Murray McDavid. And some years later, they came to revive Bruichladdich Distillery. And 10 years down the line, they sold the distillery as well as Murray McDavid. And ACO Limited stepped in. They brought the Murray McDavid casks from Bruichladdich and brought them over to, which at the time was a derelict site at the old Colburn Distillery, which is about 4 miles south of Elgin. And it was a distillery that was built in 1897. A relatively short life. It was a Diageo distillery. It's quite a creative site in terms of whiskey making. But that mothballed in 1985. And ACO Limited came along to revive the traditional dunnage warehouses and the filling store and the offices where we still operate today. That's really the jewel in the crown of our whiskey operations. It's where we bring a lot of our older casks to spend their final years in cask. But it's also where we create the first ideas of our experimental practices for Murray McDavid. And I think it may have been back in 2016 where we really kicked into gear and really gave commitment to the category of single grain whiskey. Now, single grain whiskey is typically consumed in the guise of a blend. There's the size, the scale of single grain distilleries are vast. What we have in glass number 2 is a single grain, one of my favorite single grains for a few reasons. But it's a single grain from North British Distillery, one of the oldest grain distilleries, 1885. This was created, or the distillery was built, I should say. And today, I think their first year of distillation was about 3.5 million litres a year, which is actually a pretty large outturn for a single malt distillery today, I mean, the final whiskey that we'll be enjoying is actually around about 1 million litres of alcohol per year. So these guys started off, I think, at 3.5 million, and today are producing around, I think it's 70 million litres a year, which I read somewhere online, they actually produce around 500 bottles of spirit a minute, which is quite incredible to think, you know, where this spirit is going. And as I say, a huge amount of that spirit will go into blended Scotch whisky for brands that you would almost all have enjoyed previously, whether it's neat in a glass or in a cocktail. Grain whisky, without grain whisky, the Scotch whisky industry wouldn't be as prevalent. We wouldn't be celebrating single malts in the way that we do today. So we owe a lot to grain, and this is what I love about, not just, I do enjoy, of course, the history, but like any whiskey, it's really what's going on in the glass. And I noticed that certainly when I joined the company in 2015, that nobody was really bottling or attempting to do anything with young grain. Now, I mean, we had the luxury of and still do have the luxury of having wonderful stocks of 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old grain, old grain, which, as I said at the beginning of this broadcast, it's an absolute luxury if you have the time to allow your stocks to mature in that fashion. But actually, in reality, you're going to need to bottle stocks that are much younger to balance out the older stocks. And nobody was really doing this with grain. And still, to an extent, there really aren't many that are actively pushing young grain out into the market in a considered way. There are, of course, larger brands that we all know that are young grain, and not the best examples, which is why I'm going to point you to what we have in the glass here, because I think our Select Grain series is, of course, maybe a little biased, but I think it's the best representation out on the market today of young grains. Now, young, I'm kind of bracketing the maybe 10 to 15 years of age for grain whiskey. That's awfully young, especially if those grains have been maturing in refill hogsheads. Now, I saw some, although it was only 3 years of age, I saw a cask sample today that was gin clear after 3 years, and it had been, of course, in refill cask for those 3 years. Now, yes, that's going to give you a tick to meet the SWA requirements to bottle this spirit as a whiskey, but in terms of enjoyment of flavor, those refill casks are really doing nothing. There's a slight bit of oxidation in the cask, but that's not going to save the whiskey in the glass. So, as I referred to with the Speysiders and the importance of collaborating with cask suppliers that provide fresh cask with abundant flavors that are exuded into the spirit, is of key importance, and it's really at the foremost of what we do at Murray McDavid. So, enough rabbiting on. I'm going to tell you exactly what I've got in the glass here. This is a 13-year-old single malt, 13-year-old single grain from North British distillery, and this has had a finish of just under 2 years, 20 months in freshly emptied port barriques from our collaborators called Calves de Mercia in the Douro Valley. Quite a new cooperative of winemakers down in the Douro Valley in Portugal. There's actually it's a co-op of I think it's 175 wine growers or vine vintners down in Portugal who make a different variety of red wines, white wines, sparkling, a few different styles of ports. This is their tawny ports. And as I say, they're barriques, 225 bulk liters. Same size as the Hemina Spinola casks, actually, which is quite unusual because you'll more see on the industry standards is PX cask being hogshead, slightly larger at 250 bulk capacity, which doesn't sound a lot of difference, but actually the smaller cask slightly intensifies the development of flavor, character, and color within your whiskey. So yeah, we appreciate the slightly smaller style casks, or I certainly do. The guys in the warehouse certainly don't, because the smaller the cask means the further that they have to hunch over to roll those barrels into stow. So I'm going to raise this one to you, gents in the warehouse. Thank you very much for rolling these into stow and breaking your back whilst making some wonderful, wonderful single grain whiskey. So the North British here is made from maize, otherwise known as corn. I think it's 3,000 tons of maize that they import for the creation of this. As I say, around 500 bottles per minute of spirit that they produce. But only a small portion of this. And I'll challenge you guys out there watching, find me another 13-year-old or a young North British single grain that's been finished in such a way. There's quite a lot of level of investment that go into creating these younger styles of grain whiskey, because the market of whiskey consumers is still quite, well, very, very new to young grain whiskey, or even grain whiskey, a single grain whiskey as a category. But in terms of delivery of flavor, certainly from these finishing casks, I think it entertains, depending on what kind of grain, I think it entertains a really interesting space for the drinker that sits in between the demographic of a single malt drinker and a bourbon drinker, in some cases a rum drinker, because some single grains like Invergordon at young ages, really, really fruity, really estery, really oily. Reminds me a lot of some of the kind of agricole style of rums. Whereas the North British here, with that corn base of the spirit, it has a lot of sweetness that's very similar to bourbon. And with the younger age, we don't have the complexities of the older grains, but the delivery of flavor from the Castor Mercia Tawny Port casks, bottled at 50% alcohol, wonderfully creamy, sweet aroma there, with the fruitiness of that port coming through, the spice slightly balancing the sweetness of the North British grain. As you would expect at 50%, there is a slight alcohol prickle on the nose. However, the creaminess of that North British grain and the fruity element of the port barriques, it softens it, certainly. On the palate, we get that real creamy North British grain that comes through. And it's kind of, the viscosity again, it clings to the cheeks. We get that icing sugar kind of sweetness from the grain itself. And I don't know if you can pick that up at home, but you know, really, really clinging to the glass there, which you just about see it. For me, flavor is, of course, very important, but also texture. of the whiskey as well. And with these finishing casks, they do provide additional texture. I mean, with the North British, actually, there's a lot of texture coming from that spirit from the North British that clings to the palate. Now, that's a wonderful thing in my mind, because as we breathe, as we talk, as we wax lyrical about whiskies, actually it's oxygenating your palate. So you're actually starting to get more flavors develop, which yeah, it's a real lovely quality within a whiskey, is having a whiskey that can not only develop in the glass, but develop on the palate. So I apologize. I realized that I've been motoring on through, waffling on, waxing lyrical about these fine two drams. And I see we have lots of lovely comments coming in. So I thank you very much for those. Lots of familiar faces, or familiar names, I should say. So that's always a joy to see you guys tuning in. Please keep those questions coming, and we'll have a bit of a Q&A towards the end. And yeah, if you've got any questions about the drams, Murray McDavid, our plans for this year, there's a whole heap going on. And now I've had 2 whiskeys, you're going to get anything out of me almost. So yeah, look forward to hearing your questions. Now then, I also want to, on a personal note, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably be privy to know that I am a huge fan of a sandwich. Now, I didn't actually have time to pre-make a sandwich that I was hoping to create, which was Burns inspired. Of course, it was going to be a haggis sandwich. So I'm actually going to now create that at the weekend. If anybody else wants to create a haggis sandwich, take a picture on and stick it on Instagram, tag me. And although Pam doesn't know, Pam's our head of marketing behind the scenes. I'm going to give away a miniature of our North British and Speyside to the best looking haggis sandwich out there. I'll be posting mine on Saturday and Sunday. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, a little bit of fun, haggis sandwich. Sandwiches are the best meal on the planet in my mind, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. So enough of that nonsense. We're going to move on to our final dram of the session, and it's actually a whiskey that we have only just bottled in the last couple of weeks, and I'm really excited to be sharing this one with you, because it actually marks it's a new project. It's a new range of bottlings that we are going to be launching exclusively to the UK. If you're not streaming from the UK this evening, fear not, because we're working with your distributors currently to bring you single cask bottlings specifically for your market. And well, today I've finalized I think just over 30 casks for these single cask projects, and this marks the first of the single cask exclusives for the UK. And of course, I'm talking about the 16-year-old Lechick, or Ledaig, as some of you may be more familiar with it. So it's a single malt from what's now known as the Tobermory distillery, distillery built in 1798, which actually was first known as the Lechick distillery. Lede Distillery. But it wasn't until I think it was around 19. I'm going to have to cheat here. I'm sorry, guys. It was 1979. I've got the date. So it was 1979 that the Lechick Distillery on the over on Isle of Mull was renamed as Tobermory as we know it today. And the distillery itself, very, very small distillery in terms of production, around that 1 million litre per annum a year. Remember, North British was around 70, so much less of the Tobermory single malts to go around for their own brands and for whiskey brokers, whiskey bottlers. So it's a real special occasion when we do come to bottle some of this really wonderful spirit of our own. So 16 years of age. This is heavily peated to around 35 ppm. And of course, on the nose, we're really getting that peach shine through. Now, with our market exclusive bottlings, this is the UK exclusive, we are bottling at natural cask strength. And this one is up there at 57.4%. And as I alluded to at the start of the tasting, this single malt, like the North British grain, came to us. We purchased this from the supplier in refill bourbon hogsheads. Generally, that's how casks are bought, certainly in bulk, because of course those distilleries want to retain the best wood for their own bottlings, for their special projects, which is why we re-rack them, to bring in new additional flavor, sometimes unexpected flavor from what you would typically expect from the likes of North British Distillery or Lechick. The finish here is it's a finish that we have created at our Colburn warehouses. Very, very special finish of diamond rum. Diamond Distillery is over in Guyana, and actually they date back to 1670. So way, way, way before our man Robbie Burns was introduced to the world. They produce many different styles of rum. I think it's around 26 million litres of alcohol they produce a year. So big, big, big rum producer that supply many brands that you may have heard of, like El Dorado. You'll see more and more independent bottlers now starting to bottle interesting rums from the Caribbean. And the spirit here has been finished. The Lechick is finished within those Guyanese rum casks for 2.5 years. So quite a considerable amount of time in there. As you can see, not a huge amount done to the color of the spirit there, but that's absolutely fine. It's not that we were expecting, more kind of luscious tones like the North British, because some of these rums are, of course, light, estery, oily, robust styles of spirit. And it was, well, for a few reasons, we've chosen the finishing cask for this Lechick, also for the amount of time. It's all based from that spirit style from Lechick. Heavy, peaty, oily, robust style of spirit. Those types of spirits can almost uphold any style of cask finish, whether it's a light style like a Sauterne or a more traditional bourbon finish. Those are what I consider light cask finishes. On the flip side, PX sherry is incredibly heavy, incredibly boisterous style of finishing cask, as they say, the viscosity. This diamond rum cask, although we're not getting heavy color. It is a oily style of cask, and provides a lot of tropical fruits within the peaty spirit. And what I really love about the combination of the Lechik and the diamond rum cask is they both have an oily quality that comes together. Bottled, as I say, at natural cask strength, 57.4. That 2.5 year finish in that Guyanese rum cask, it just softens the aggression of that spirit on the nose. But we're still getting that wonderfully kind of like, it's almost as if you would introduce a slight bit of peat to kind of a tropical peachy golden syrup. Wonderfully light, vibrant aromas there on the tropical fruits. And again, that oiliness, that peat, the oiliness plays such an important part. As I've said for a few of these, but for peated whiskies, oiliness acts as a real vehicle of flavor. I may have sipped that 20-30 seconds ago, and that peat is still rolling around on my tongue, dancing. And that's because of the viscosity, the oiliness of that whiskey, which we've got kind of lemon sherbet coming through on the palate there. More of those tropical fruits. But the peat is the real hero that just carries on and on and on. Really, really wonderful. Really wonderful. That actually, a little drop of that in some onion chutney to go into my haggis sandwich. That is going to be one hell of a sandwich. That is for sure. So this is the first of many UK exclusive single casks that we've got coming this year. I've got 3 more lined up for March, April time. Very different styles. We like to keep it varied in terms of spirit style, age, and of course cask type. I've selected today a whiskey that we've never bottled under Murray McDavid, under the umbrella of ACO. So I'm really looking forward to that. Incredible Oloroso sherry finish. That's all I'm saying on that one. Actually, 2 single malts that we've never bottled. More kind of not expected, but a quality Oloroso finish. We also have a stout finish. I've actually got a peated malt in that stout cask. So that is going to be a real treat for when that comes. And also, as I say, the Spirit Speyside bottling further down the line, which that festival will be taking part, as I say, the 27th of April until I think it's the 5th of May. So really, really looking forward to announcing more details of that event, where we will be hosting at various sites across Speyside, some of which you would have joined us at the past. We do have some new venues, which we will be announcing in the coming weeks. One of the venues might include a bit of fishing, which I am really looking forward to. So if we can get some fish finger sandwiches down on Findhorn Beach, that would be really wonderful. But that's enough about sandwiches. That's enough about the Spirit of Speyside. Check us out on social media, on our website over the coming weeks to find out more about that. And I'm going to open it up now to see if we've got any questions about any of the whiskies this evening, any Speyside activities. or anything sandwich related. Always happy to talk about sandwich related. Olaf, thank you very much for your questions. Will the stout one be UK only as well? The particular stout cast that I have in mind, it will be UK exclusive, but fear not. We've collaborated with a few different breweries around the UK who have provided us stout casks. The batch that I am referring to for the UK exclusive is in collaboration with Spey Valley Brewery up in Keith. And I think we've got about 12 of their stout casks. So there will be more. Don't worry, there's plenty to go around. What kind of sandwich is the king of sandwiches? Oh, God, no, Jesus. That's almost as bad as asking me what my favorite whiskey is. That's one of those questions. Well, I mean, my Saturday ritual, you'll see, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see the sandwich that I posted at the weekend. That's my Saturday ritual. It's got to be the classic bacon, sausage, and egg. What I've recently come to enjoy actually is a little squeeze of American mustard in there. But that's me just being an absolute greedy animal on a Saturday morning. But the more decadent, let's say, probably bacon brie and cranberry, I think, with a little bit of rocket on wholemeal bread, freshly baked, of course. Terrific. Now, whiskey and sandwich pairing, I'm not quite there yet, so maybe that'll be Spirit Space Aid 2023. We shall see. You had to assign each of these whiskies to a dessert. Ooh, now that's a cool question. Dessert questions. Now, I would go for the North British port. I would probably go with some kind of. I'd probably have to go for some kind of. Oh, I tell you what, a chocolate and raspberry, maybe a white chocolate and raspberry cheesecake for the port North British. That would be pretty delicious. The peat with the Lechik rum. What would we go for there in terms of dessert? Or you could go for something like an Eton mess, potentially. That could be quite interesting. And a sticky toffee pudding with a dollop of good vanilla ice cream for the PX Finnish Space Ciders. How about that then? Woo! You're going to need to go get checked out for diabetes after that. That's going to be a real mouthful. Delicious. Which whiskies would you recommend to an Irish whiskey drinker? Ooh, something quite smooth. Interesting. I mean, on the table, I would certainly rule out the Lechik there for your Irish friend. In terms of lightness, I tell you what, I will probably go for the North British. Splash of water to bring that strength down. We're at 50% at the moment, but the style of distillation here is a little bit more in line to produce a flavor profile that your Irish drinking whiskey friends might enjoy. Bring it down with a little bit of water. You'll get that sweet creaminess that comes through. That should be a good show. Failing that, if you look at our, although it's not on the tasting this evening, our 8-year-old liquid in the benchmark series, that's been finished in Koval bourbon casks. That really brings the sweetness to the party, the creaminess, vanilla's running through and through, creamy and smooth. It's a delight to drink that one. My friend Fiona Anderson asking a question. Fiona, I hope you are very well. We'll see you up at, I think it's Falkirk, that we usually bump into each other. You've been to the Murray McDavid boat, of course. So Fiona's a Murray McDavid legend. So Dean, what was the name of the last whiskey tonight? I like these peaty ones. You made it sound delicious. Wonderful. Well, I thank you very much. I try my best. The whiskey is actually just, they bring the deliciousness to the party. What I'm going to do, Fiona, is I'm just going to share my screen to show you exactly what the whiskey was that I was waxing lyrical about this evening. And in the background, Pam is going to kindly share this on the screen to you. So this is our UK exclusive, Ledaig, Lechick, as it's more locally known on the Isle of Mull. 2005, quite an interesting date of distillation, that 2005, because it wasn't until 2007 that the brand name Ledaig was reintroduced. 2007, that was reintroduced to the whiskey world. So this heavily peated single malt from Mull predates that, and as you can see, in true Murray McDavid form fashion, we give you as much information as we can. So as I mentioned, the spirit would have been initially filled into refilled bourbon hogsheads and finished in the diamond rum barrel. This is the cask number 1900201. I can tell you that 1900200 is still in the warehouses at Colburn. So prepare yourselves in a few years to see an older example. Also finishing in a diamond rum cask. So 57.4% natural cask strength. No bottle of Murray McDavid that you'll ever see will be chill filtered. So we preserve all of those natural, rich oils within the spirit, and every bottle of Murray McDavid is natural color as well. And this is just a nice infographic on the top right to really show you the journey of the spirit there. And of course, there's going to be some of you wondering, well, how can you fit 250 litre capacity into a 200 litre capacity cask? Well, I can tell you the Angels have had their straws inside the bourbon hogsheads and taken their share. And that leaves us a very convenient amount to fill the bourbon barrels that had previously held the diamond rum. So Pam, if you could stop sharing that one, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much. Lovely. No problem, Fiona. Looking forward to seeing you. Okie doke. Well, do we have any other questions this evening? It would be great to, well, I guess it's kind of a bit tricky to select a favorite dram of the evening. Let's give it a go anyway. If you guys have a favorite out of the three, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. But as the whiskies are so different, it's hard to really compare. They're all different for well, different styles of Scotch whiskey. We have the blended malt, we have the single grain, we have the single malt. Very different production techniques applied, very different cask finishes, and of course, different ages, of course. So where is the best place to buy your whiskies? Oh, what a wonderful question. Teed me up there, a treat. So in the UK, we have a fairly small network at the moment of retailers, but we are growing our UK sales team. So our whiskies will be in specialist retailers near you soon. We are selling currently to the likes of Good Spirits, Inverary Whiskey Shop. I think the Whiskey Barrel are still are stocking our stuff currently. We can certainly send you an email about local Scottish retailers. The UK is covered by Master of Malt. They're probably our biggest outlet in the UK at the moment. But you can, of course, also buy our products, our merchandise as well. Also tasting selection boxes, which are quite fun, on our Murray McDavid websites. Globally, I mean, we have many different distributors, and I think we're going to be putting those on our website in the next week or two, just to give you a bit more of a clue. Okay, has to be the single malt. Yeah, I mean, it's undeniable. I mean, it's the oldest whiskey on the table. It's arguably the most flavoursome, with the style of spirit giving so much character. You're getting more complexity through that age, but also that finishing cask being in there for 2.5 years, and you have such a wicked impact from the whiskey being bottled at that cask strength. And it does drink well at cask strength, but also with water. What that'll do is that'll expose some of that smoke even more, and yeah, it's a beast. I think I wrote on the back label for this one, it's a peat bomb. It really is a wonderful whiskey. But I think we've got whiskies here for different occasions. You know, I mean, the Space Raiders, easy going. It's a quaffable dram, that one. I would definitely be interested to see if anybody could knock up a really great cocktail with the 13-year-old North British. You know, there's a lot of youthful character within that sweet, creamy grain, but the impact of that portwood is really bringing a lot to the party. Wonderful whiskey. I love to sip along to that. I was actually had a bit of that at a barbecue last summer, which was wonderful. And yeah, you know, just sheer diversity of styles, and that's what we try and do with the Murray McDavid range. Chris Webb, another legend of Murray McDavid, which I hope to see you out on the road again at events in the Midlands. We are at the Birmingham Whiskey Festival is that the start of Feb, I think, or no, it can't be the start of Feb, maybe the start of March. Again, that's listed on our website. I'm going to have to check to remind myself where to be and on what day, clearly. But we're going to be at the Birmingham Whiskey Festival in the next couple of weeks, so hopefully see you there. I know it's not on the tasting this evening, but would be great to hear a little bit about the Tullibardine 4-year-old. Yes, the youngest whiskey we have bottled ever for Murray McDavid in the history of the brand, which, you know, was a bit of a gamble because, of course, when people are buying whiskey on the shelf, they don't have the opportunity to sample it, which is why we are so active in terms of hosting events, hosting tastings, being at events, and getting liquid to lips, as some people like to say. And the Tullibardine is a really wonderful example of that. You know, the proof really is in the pudding there. With the Tullibardine, it's been finished in first fill PX sherry casks, and really transforms that youthful Tullibardine spirit. Highland single malt, and as I say, the viscosity, that creamy mocha caramel, honeyed malt really comes together, and you know, it's the coming together of those flavors, in the integration of those flavors, which made me really push to bottle it at that young age, because for me that is a very good representation of, it's a perfect representation almost of our wood policies, our wood management, our sourcing of exceptional casks that breathe life into younger spirits, whether it's single malt or single grain. So that was bottled at 46%. And there's, how I see it within our benchmark series, which the Talabardin is in, there's almost a kind of a stepping stone through the range. We have the younger kind of introductory styles, like the Liquid that I mentioned, which is fantastic, like the Talabardin that you mentioned. Younger styles, heavy cask finishing, which brings in a lot of flavor into those malts, takes away a lot of the youthful character that you would expect to see these whiskies at that age from refill casks, which is why people tend to shy away generally from younger spirits, is because those spirits generally haven't been through a good or well thought out wood policy. Whereas as I said, with the introduction to our grain series, we like to challenge the norms. We like to be different in our whiskey creation. So bottling unconventional whiskies is certainly something that I get a real buzz out of. And, when we see the feedback that we've been getting with these kind of differing styles, it's really, really rewarding. So hopefully Chris will get some Talabardin into your glass soon, and you can confirm my my whiskey ramblings there. Bob got lucky once on a bottle of now we're talking crazy whiskeys. Glenablin 42-year-old. I'm looking for a bottle of the same type of notes. Okay. Well, you're really picking my brains there. What I would suggest, Bob, is if you're looking for recommendations on that particular whiskey, I'm certainly going to have to do a bit more research into exactly what those flavors were, because I have not tried that whiskey. But with a little bit of research, I'm sure I can point you in the right direction. So what I would suggest is you can email me directly. Why not? My email address is dean, DEAN, .jode, JODE, @ACO, that's ACEO, .co.uk. And I'll try my best. And if you have any of that left, of course, a sample wouldn't go amiss. Please. Okay. Thanks, Pam. Put it in the comments there. Hopefully, I don't get millions of spam emails, because I realize this is going out on the World Wide Web. Anyways, that's a issue for our IT manager to solve for me. So, do we have any other questions for me this evening? I see a lot of you people liking the Lechik, which is a step apart from the other two in terms of delivery of flavor complexity. But that's also a part of our Murray McDavid range. Is we have the introductory, the intermediate, and the more complex styles. So we have a few indicators of that tonight. So yeah, thanks for your comments, all thoroughly appreciated. Thank you for your curiosity, always appreciated too. Gavin Miller, what is your badge? Oh, wrong color there. I will show you exactly. So if my camera can pick this up, it's trying to focus on that. It is actually the wee Westie that sits on our tins, on all of our labels. We have the wee Westie in the middle there, and you probably can't quite see or read that, but in the belt around the Westie there, it reads "Clack and a Coin," which is it's an ethos of whiskey creation that has been stamped into the brand by the founders. I would say more predominantly Mark Rainier, who is a bit of a renegade in the spirits industry. And when he first created Murray McDavid, it was to be a brand that is different, creating whiskies that are different in terms of style of flavor, for curious whiskey people to enjoy. And I'm of course referring to the maturation techniques that Mark and the team introduced to Murray McDavid, sourcing weird and wonderful wine casks from very specialist vineyards from across Europe, importing those casks into Scotland for the further maturation of Scotch whiskey. And in the mid-90s, in the inception of Murray McDavid, that was an incredibly rare practice. Most whiskies that were being bottled would have been from the traditional bourbon barrels, sherry hogsheads, sherry butts, puncheons. But yeah, Mark and the team were real rebellious whiskey makers. And Mark, being starting his professional career in the drinks industry as a bit of a hustler and bustler in London as a wine merchant, importing many different styles of wine. That's how he came to have that relationship with these vineyards to import their casks. A renegade, as I say. And as a stamp of that whiskey making ethos, challenging the norms, being bold in terms of whiskey making, not being afraid to take a step out into the unknown, to produce really wonderful, flavoursome, powerful whiskies. The stamp clack and a coin was a mark of quality to go onto every bottle of Murray McDavid. And of course, that loosely translates as the dog's bollocks, meaning outstanding quality. The mutt's nuts, as some may also know or be familiar with that phrase. So it's a cheeky phrase that really signifies just the sheer courageous methods of whiskey creation that we still abide by today at Murray McDavid, not being afraid to challenge the norms to create big, powerful, flavorful styles of whiskey. So I hope that explains that. And you'll be able to get some of our badges. I think we still have some on our website, but we do bring these along to the likes of Spirit of Speyside Festival, and these tend to get chucked into bags with bottles that are bought. So yeah, come along, get yourself a nice badge, and have a little chuckle at our motto. It's a fun little story. And I hope it rings true. I hope that you have enjoyed these flavorful whiskies this evening, and you can see the art of maturation exuding through the styles of spirit that we have in front of us. So without further ado, I'm torn as to which to pick. I guess it's a case of which one first. But back to Colburn tomorrow to select more casks, so I will be very sensible this evening, I can assure you. Palate needs to be nice and clear. So, ladies and gentlemen, joining from around the world, and new friends, old friends, look forward to seeing you soon at whether it's another virtual tasting, but I really hope that I get to see you soon at whether it's a festival or a whiskey club tasting or retail tasting. We're going to be busy this year, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you very much for joining. We'll raise a dram to Robbie Burns, of course. And I look forward to seeing your your haggis sandwiches over the weekend. Cheers.